Hello everyone, this is Garrett and this is the early access version of Road Redemption. Before I get started, I should mention that quite a while ago, I received a key to be in the alpha for this game from the developer. So I made a video of it and then they sent me a free version of this game for that video. So any opinion I might state during this video might just be a strong bribe, but you know, that's just keep that in mind. And also, it is currently, as I said, in early access, which means that it's still lacking a lot of features and stuff like that. But I'm just gonna show off what is currently there. This is being recorded on the 5th of October 2014. And right now the game only contains a single player campaign and a campaign plus mode, which you unlock by beating the game. And I'm just going to show you off some of the gameplay in case you haven't seen the video of the alpha. So in this level, the third level of the game, I'm just going to show off a couple levels which seem interesting. You get various different missions during each level. Like basically every time you start a level, the mission that you have to get is random. And in this particular one, we have to attract police. And you do that by just shooting them with guns or hitting them with hammers and whatnot. In the alpha, there were basically only desert levels, and the first couple of levels, I think the first 4 or so during the campaign, they're all desert levels as well, but they do look drastically different compared to the alpha. And they added a couple things since then as well. You still gain money, health, and nitro from basically knocking off anyone off of their bike. And the money is actually usable now, which you'll see after we beat this level. But we also have several new weapons. I think the mace wasn't there until this version. Also, you have guns. And the guns basically seem to be better than every melee weapon in almost every situation. I think the melee weapons are mostly good if the person in front of you has a gun and you have a melee weapon, and then you can just sort of sneak up on them. Because then, like, they won't really be able to see you unless they're looking backwards, which is something you can do. You can actually turn the camera all around you and just shoot wherever you want. But it is kind of awkward to drive with the gun aimed backwards the entire time, because as you can see, there's already so much to look out for. There's a lot of traffic a lot of the time. And sometimes there's these cars with, like, logs in them. And it can be a real issue. So, yeah, melee weapons mostly seem to be good in that instance, but right now there's only single player, and the AI doesn't actually have guns ever, so you are just really strong. Also, when you die, you get a game over, or when you beat the game as well, you basically get access to an experience screen, and with that you can unlock some skills like better bikes and starting off with a gun like the handgun that I had at the start of this. And it just leads to some easier experiences during the campaign mode. But let's just actually talk about the game. We got a 5-star reward, or we got 5 police stars, which is why we got the maximum possible reward, and that leads us to the store. Now, I had a skill which gave me plus $1,500 every campaign playthrough. And also, every now and then it'll ask you if you want to start with a specific weapon. That's random as well, I think. But this is the store page. You can buy a bunch of upgrades, which are actually temporary. Because the moment your playthrough ends, like if you die or if you beat the game, then those upgrades will just not be there anymore. You'll have to buy them again. Only the things unlocked with experience will actually carry over to the next game. And that's kind of nice. Like most of the things you can buy from the store, like more experience, more money, you can deal extra damage, but you'll deal damage to yourself as well, stuff like that. And there you go. But anyway, game. Right now, our mission is to kill 9 people, which, the moment we get guns, it becomes really trivial, because killing anyone with a gun, especially with mouse and keyboard, is just hilariously easy. But I figured I'd show it off, just because it's not a very long level, and you get to see some of the different missions as well. Now, level 5 and onwards are going to take place on a rooftop, and this gives you access to sort of a weird jump boost mechanic where if you hold the button, you kind of just keep flying up for a while. It has a cooldown, but you can use it as many times as you want. And it also adds a harpoon gun, which is super powerful right now. Like, you can hit people with it, which is not that strong, but you can mostly use it for speed, and it is a ridiculous combination right now. Because the way it works is you basically shoot your harpoon, and then it sort of acts as like a stretched out bungee cord. And using that, you can take really, really sharp turns. You can go incredibly fast because you basically keep getting pulled in and you just keep gaining more and more momentum. And you just go so much quicker than you would if you would just drive ordinarily, to the point where you will just not see your opponent anymore, or even anyone else driving. Like, the traffic is completely random in every level, so sometimes you'll even just find cars driving around on the rooftops, which is pretty funny. But yeah, like you can see, I'm already almost at the end of the stage, and it's just begun. And this is kind of what every rooftop race is like right now. And ordinarily, like, sometimes it's actually helicopters flying around. But, and at first I thought that's what you use them for, but no, you can just use it everywhere as long as you just hit the floor. Now, the levels after the rooftop missions are snow levels, which look pretty cool. The only real downside is the performance, honestly. Like, when the early access came out, which is about 2 weeks ago from this point, these levels are basically unplayable. But now, after some patches, it does play a lot better than it did. So they are definitely working on performance stuff as well, which is good. But it still has a tendency of just going below 30 FPS, and it can be a real issue, which is sad because they are actually really fun to do. Oddly enough, you still have the jump jets and the harpoon gun as well during these levels, which I wonder if that's intended, because if you play Campaign Plus, the levels you play are actually seem to just use a random, like a randomly chosen like level template, like you either drive on the rooftop or the desert, or this one or one that is coming up. And if you start off on like a snow level, you won't have these items available to you, so you won't be able to do this basically every race. And during like the other missions, like during takedown and stuff, this is basically useless. But during like the police chases or the things where you have to gain police stars, it's actually really useful as well, because in the end of the day, you still need to actually get to the end of the level during those stages, and you can just do this and you'll just like, well, like you can see, you just can't see anyone. And I have to wonder if that's intended. Obviously, it's still in early access, and who knows where the game's gonna go. And this is actually really fun to do as well, don't get me wrong. It is actually really fun to play like this, but it doesn't really work against single-player AI right now. But I would love to see this in like multiplayer or something. I think that would be absolutely hilarious to see, but multiplayer unfortunately isn't quite there yet. And to top it all off, I'm just going to show off the last level of the current campaign mode, which is a little bit different. I didn't quite expect to see this when I launched the game and played through it for the first time I actually managed to beat it, because it looks a little bit similar to a stage from a different game. You might be able to guess which one. And again, we still have access to the jump jet and harpoon gun. But in this level, I actually really like it, because it actually leads to some pretty interesting shortcuts and stuff like that. Because you can actually just skip to other parts of the map this way. But it simultaneously is just really hard to stay on the stage at this speed as well. The cool thing is, though, you can sort of just Spider-Man your way on the bottom of the stage as well, and if you do it correctly, you can actually get back on the stage, and there's just a lot of possibilities there. And I'm curious to see what the eventual game's gonna look like in that regard. Right now, there's still like a couple little bugs as well, like it doesn't really always show up correctly what your position is, which might have something to do with just skipping checkpoints, which are just invisible, I suppose. But if you fall off the stage, then usually you'll just get put back on the stage wherever like the closest put back position is, I suppose. And sometimes you'll just, if you are close to that, even if you hadn't hit the checkpoint yet, you'll just end up really far ahead that way. But there you go. It does look beautiful though. And about the performance, which I mentioned earlier, you can actually like lower the graphics by quite a bit, up to the point where it kind of looks like a PlayStation 2 game, and then it does run really well. But it would be nice if it would run properly like this. Also, sometimes you fly through the stage, which I'm not really sure how that happened either, but I'm not gonna question it either. But yeah, like right now, I think the game definitely has a lot of potential. I'd love to see multiplayer in this game, because I still think that would just be like the most fun thing about this game. But the single player, as it stands, is actually pretty enjoyable as well. Although, it made more sense before I figured out the thing with the harpoon gun, because, yeah, as you can see, you just fly past everyone. And even on stages like this, where it's just really hard to just stay on the track, you just go so fast that it doesn't really work. But, you know, early access is definitely something I have to keep in mind. I'm not really very used to playing early access games, which is why this video is a little bit different from what I usually make, but, you know, it's pretty interesting so far, and I'd like to see where it's gonna go. I might make another video on this every couple of months or so to see where it has gone. And also, like, this is basically the screen you get after beating the game or after dying, and these are all the skills you can unlock. Right now, just for beating the game, I gained like 2200 experience, and most of these things are stuff like you'll gain more health, or you'll start off with a gun, but there's also stuff like you start off at level 3 specifically. I wonder if that's going to change, because that's a pretty specific one and kind of an odd bonus. A lot of these you can upgrade more than once as well, like the one I'm upgrading right now to start off with a better gun. You'll start off with a better gun the more times you upgrade it, obviously, and you keep these upgrades forever as well, so it just makes future playthroughs a lot easier. But also Campaign Plus, which is actually pretty interesting, because the enemies, I don't know if they do more damage. Also, the story is a happy end, and a whole bunch of extra stuff coming soon, as it says over here. But yeah, Campaign Plus is really interesting. It seems like enemies do more damage, but I'm not sure about that. But it's also just the fact that you don't always start off on a rooftop mission, meaning that you won't have access to like the jumping and the harpoon gun and flying all over the place. The only downside right now is that the music doesn't work, but that's probably just another early access thing, so it's like whatever. But yeah, right now it's pretty fun, and I think that the moment multiplayer gets added, it's gonna be hilarious if it works properly. Even if they keep like the harpoon gun and the flying the way it is now, because it kind of feels like a Spider-Man racing game right now, and that would be kind of hilarious to see multiplayer, but I feel like that's not entirely what they were going for, due to the fact, basically just due to the way the desert levels play, because they just play so much different right now compared to when you have jump jets and stuff like that. But there you go. Like I said, I'll probably just try to make a video of this every now and then just to see where the game is, because it is a really interesting looking game, and I think they can do a lot with it, to be honest. It's a very unique game as well. It's based on Road Rash, which was like a really old game series where you're basically also just driving a bike and you had the possibility to knock other players off of their bike. There's also like a couple of mechanics which I didn't actually show off, like you can kick people, you can grab people as well, which I'm very curious how that would even work in like a multiplayer environment. But you can grab people and then just push them into the oncoming traffic and stuff like that, which is really cool to do as well. There's actually a couple missions as well where you have to take everyone off of, like, take a number of people off of their bikes, and you are not allowed to just like kill them with a weapon. You actually have to push them like into a wall or stuff like that, and that's actually really fun to do as well, because it changes the level entirely, because you're not allowed to use guns and stuff like that. The takedown missions right now, the guns make them extremely trivial. There's even like occasions where you'll start off with like a grenade launcher or something like that, and you can just take down 3 people at once, and it becomes like a little bit silly, and some of the missions just end up taking like 30 seconds at most, which as you can probably imagine, it's just really weird. But yeah, consider picking it up. It's 20 euros right now, which might be a little bit much for some people, given that it currently doesn't have that much content, and it requires a pretty strong system to run smoothly. But it is looking pretty fun, and it also is looking like it'll be even more fun in the future. Maybe consider picking it up in the future when there's a little bit more content and a little bit more stability in that sense. And that's all I got to say about it, really. Hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll return to this game in a couple of months from now, and I've added a whole bunch of new stuff. They are definitely still working on it, and updates are released pretty frequently. Yeah, you can kind of tell it releases updates frequently due to the fact that I had a bunch of footage yesterday And then I was like, I'm gonna edit it today, and then they like added Campaign Plus mode and stuff, and I had to basically re-record everything. But, you know, I guess it gave me a little bit of practice for today's recording, so I guess I should be thankful of that in the end. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope to see you next time when we maybe play this again, maybe something else. We'll see. Bye-bye.